So this one was very interesting to me. I'm a big fan of old TV, old media, old TV specials. When I was a kid, TV specials were a big thing, and they were super exciting because they were something different. They were one night only, and you never knew if you would see them again. And I'm sure people who saw this next thing I'm about to talk about thought they would probably never see it again either. From Liberation Hall, this is Noon Wine. This was a 1966 TV special. Probably only ever aired once, shot on video, which I think is very cool, starring Jason Robards, Olivia DeHavilland, and Theodore Bickel, with a couple of cameos by some other people I'll mention later. And this was a presentation of something called ABC Stage 67, which I believe was a series of plays that were done for TV, teleplays, as we called them back then. And this was notable because not only the cast, it was written and directed by Sam Peckinpah, based on a novel by Catherine Ann Porter, a novel or a story or something, based on an existing work by Catherine Ann Porter. And it's a very simple story, very low-key. It is DeHavilland and Robards run a very small farm that's getting by. Young, sort of scraggly, strange Swedish drifter. You got to watch out for the Swedish drifters. Swedish drifter just sort of walks onto the farm one day. It's looking for work, agrees to work for, I think it's $7 a month. It's set in the past, just so you know. And but in exchange for room and board and meals and you know and all that. And he's a little quirky, he's a little weird. He gets along fairly well with the family, but he mostly keeps to himself. And then everything's fine. And then one day, I believe time passes. I think they mentioned it's like 3 years later. This smartly dressed man shows up who turns out to be a lawman who's looking for said Swedish drifter, who said he was in an asylum and maybe he was violent in the past, maybe he killed somebody in the past, and he had escaped, and this lawman was there to take him back. And Robards doesn't take kindly to that stuff. He didn't like the cut of this man's jib. He didn't like this Theodore Bickel. He didn't like his attitude. Theodore Bickel, by the way, side note, if you're a James Bond fan and have like the Blu-rays and the DVDs and all that stuff, in the extras, there's actually a scene. Theodore Bickel screen tested for Goldfinger at one point. So every time I see him, I'm like, hey, that's that guy who could have been Goldfinger. So Bickel, Robards doesn't care for him. He wants to stop him from going and seizing his liked, beloved, if you will, ranch hand. And he strikes upon Bickel with an axe, and meaning to simply incapacitate him. And he certainly does incapacitate him right into the ground. So then I'm not going to tell you the whole thing. Let's just say that complicates their lives. We'll stop it right there. It complicates their lives. This is 55 minutes. Everybody in it's great. I mean, the cast is very good and compelling. It's very quiet. I mean, it's got a music score and everything, but it's super low key. It's almost like if you crossed an episode of The Waltons with an Alfred Hitchcock Presents. You know, it's super rural and dusty, and there's the whole, you know, insanity and murder aspect to it. But it's just a solid drama. And again, shot on videotape, which I always like things that are shot on videotape, at least in that era for TV, because it feels more immediate to me. Now, it's 1966 era videotape, so it doesn't look razor sharp. This has got a credit right up front from the UCLA Film and Television Library. They did the restoration. I think they probably had been in possession of this. So this isn't a bootleg. This is a legit release from Liberation Hall of something that UCLA provided to them. And it looks good, you know. Did it look better when it aired? Maybe, I don't know. There's a little degradation of the videotape source here. There's a couple, you know, little dropouts in lines and all that. But you have two ways of watching this. You can watch it as it originally aired with original commercials. And I'm going to guess that most of the original commercials are in here. This runs 55 minutes. So I feel like if it was a full hour of TV, it would have been closer to the full hour, but that 5 minutes of extra might have been local news breaking in at the end, might have been who knows what, but it feels like the complete commercials. It's sponsored by Singer. So in the old days, there weren't as many commercials in the course of a show. There were fewer commercial breaks, and the duration of those breaks was shorter. And a lot of times, if you just had, I'm doing this so you can see it. Oh, it's just under the frame. A lot of times, if you had a single sponsor, that's the only commercials you saw. You would see a big thing up front saying Singer presents, and that's who this is, Singer, the sewing machine company, who apparently produced, you know, other appliances as well. I wasn't aware of that until I saw the commercial at the beginning of this. And you get the commercials throughout. You maybe get some other ads for things that are coming to ABC. It's a wonderful snapshot of one evening in 1966. I really enjoyed this. I mean, I didn't love the drama. The actual program itself I thought was okay. It was more interesting than it was fulfilling or entertaining for me, but I really liked seeing it this way. Now you have the ability, the only thing on the main menu when you pop it in, it's play as originally broadcast or play without commercials. So because the commercials fades to black, commercial fades back up there, it's easy to take those out. So you can watch this without commercials if you just want to see the drama unfold as it is without interruptions, or you can watch it as it originally aired, which I did and I loved it. So it's weird to say about this that I didn't love Noon Wine as it is, but I loved the experience of seeing Noon Wine. So I really hope Liberation Hall does more of this stuff. I love old TV with commercials. I've done video trades over the years when that was more common a thing online, to find old TV episodes with the commercials in them, because it's just that stuff gets lost over time. So the fact that this probably thought-lost production exists at all, it's cool, let alone with the commercials in it. So available on DVD. I'll show you what it looks like. So this is the disc. So nothing too crazy fancy. You just get some screenshots from the back, and then again, nothing too fancy, but it's a really, really cool thing to be able to see this. And if you're a fan of Sam Peckinpah, that's what I wanted to mention. If you're a fan of Sam Peckinpah, he did this about 2 years before The Wild Bunch. A couple people who wound up working with him in The Wild Bunch are in this movie. L.Q. Jones is in this, who is a guy I always recognize as having long gray hair. He's in Time Rider, long gray hair. He's dark-haired in this, which is kind of cool. And Ben Johnson, who would wind up being in Wild Bunch just a couple years later. So, and even the exteriors are shot on video. Some of it's film. There's a couple sequences that were shot on film outdoors, but early on I was like, oh, wow, they took the videotape outside. That's unusual. A lot of the time, things that were shot on video, if they stepped outside, Python did a great joke about this in their old TV show. If anything was, studio bound and shot on video, usually if they went outside, they'd switch to film just because it was a lot easier, more portable. It was cool to see a lot of the exteriors in this were done on videotape as well. So, 59 minutes. So maybe I was wrong. I guess it is 59 minutes as a TV hour. From Liberation Hall, Region 1, Noon Wine. I thought this was really, really cool, and congrats to Liberation Hall for doing this. I'm really excited to see what they do next.